Welcome back to Newslink right here on ENCA. Now, interfaith leaders are calling for a secretariat to coordinate their work. They say this will help in the fight against social ills such as HIV and AIDS. The religious leaders met with Deputy President Paul Mashatile this week. So let's find out more about that meeting from Archbishop Mbulelo Dyasi. He's from the SA network of religious leaders, of course, living or affected by HIV and AIDS. Well, thank you so much, Archbishop. Thank you for your time. Good morning.
Hi, thanks for having me to me.
It's good to have you. And you recently had a meeting with Deputy President Paul Mashatile. How was that engagement?
That meeting was necessary for us. We really appreciate that call by the Deputy President. It's long overdue, actually. We wanted to have a space like that. But for us, we needed more a dialogue. Than listening and go home and meet again after 2 years.
Right.
We wanted a dialogue, but we have agreed with the Deputy President that we are going to set up a secretariat or a country mechanism where we coordinate our work. Because for now, we are pieces, though the pieces are necessary,
right,
because that's a true reflection of South Africa. But we need to coordinate our work. We need to know who's doing what where. I mean, faith leaders are doing a lot. Faith leaders are building schools. Faith leaders are building hospitals. Faith leaders are fighting gender-based violence. Faith leaders are now in hospitals providing spiritual care in palliative care units. That's very important for us. But who is coordinating all this? So our proposal to create a secretariat is because we want to make sure that we coordinate this work so that when we meet again with the Deputy President, we table our reports to say this is what we are doing to contribute to the nation building, rather than coming to meetings and listening to politicians.
And that's it.
And that's it. We meet again after 3 months. That's
right,
not what we want.
And, you know, I think it's important then also to delve into the significant role of interfaith leaders because, like you mentioned, there's so much that you do beyond perhaps providing the spiritual support. When someone thinks of perhaps an interfaith leader or religious leader, they think, oh, this is where I go for prayers, for consulting on the Word of God. But there's so much more that you do in the broader society that I think South Africans need to know about. Perhaps share with me some of the work that you also do.
I mean, recently we created a program through medical and community chaplaincy where we train faith leaders as chaplains to visit hospitals. This thing of praying in hospitals is out of fashion. Now, when we go to hospitals, we ask questions because we need to ensure that the spiritual needs of patients are met. So that's what we are doing. We are now providing spiritual care in hospitals. I've seen, for instance, Council of Churches supporting COVID-19 campaign. Anglican Church, for instance, they're still building schools and hospitals. I mean, Muslims are still running charity work, feeding schemes. All those things are important for our society. I mean, we're visiting prisons, but this work is not coordinated. So rather than going to Deputy President as these pieces, we said to him, we're not interested in rubbing shoulders with you. All we want is to come together in the table and say, this is what we are doing as faith leaders. I mean, we're creating jobs in this country. Because remember, faith sector is registered as non-profit organizations. We're registered as NPOs.
Right. And
we're creating jobs. Who's recording all that? I mean, we're getting funding international through PEPFAR, Global Fund, sometimes through SANAC, the South African National AIDS Council.
Right.
But are we documenting this work? No. So when we said to him, let's create a country mechanism, let's have a secretariat, people with expertise. I'm not talking about preachers here. People with expertise, because faith leaders went to school. Some of them are administrators. They are good. Some of them are doing research. We want to see faith leaders one day conducting research, for instance, on what are the root causes of GBV. Because we're not buying the story of alcohol. I grew up with what my father. But we want to know what are the root causes of GBV so that we're able to say to Deputy President, look, this is our report.
Right.
We think that we can contribute in this manner to end GBV and femicide in South Africa. Rather than, it's okay to open with prayer in the rallies, but that's not enough. That's not our job, actually, to open with prayer in all these rallies. Our job is to serve our people.
Absolutely, because after prayer, after faith, there needs to come action.
Exactly.
Right? What was the feedback like from the Deputy President? Was it promising? And is there timelines and perhaps time frames that you're working with to ensure that you do receive a secretariat?
I don't want to compare him with previous DPs, but it seems as if he's listening. Because when he was concluding that meeting, he was able to capture everything. No one was left behind. He was able to consolidate everything, and we were happy. And he said to us, let us meet every quarter, rather than waiting for 2 years. Let us meet every quarter, and we must bring issues to him. That means now our role as faith leaders is now to work with communities, because we can't be going there with issues from our churches. That's not a church space. It's a space where we bring issues from communities.
Right.
We must be able, as faith leaders, to say, Deputy President, I think this issue of electricity is too much. Can't we find a way to stop this thing? We must be able to say, climate change is now affecting our country, and these are the recommendations from faith communities, rather than waiting for disaster and where we come with tents and food. But we must be able to say, hey, remember, some of us are prophets. Maybe we can even bring prophets in one room and say, what do you see in the future? But this work must be coordinated. I'm not talking about doom-fat pastors here. I'm talking about serious people who can help our nation in terms of building this society.
Well, thank you so much, Archbishop, for talking to us and giving us feedback with regards to what sounds like a promising engagement with the Deputy President Paul Mashatile at that interfaith leaders meeting that was held recently. Archbishop Mbulelo Dyasi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
All right, that is, of course, the Archbishop coming to us right here on Newslink. Mbulelo Dyasi, Executive Director of SANERELA.